Garden of Banban can be many things. Yes, we've already talked to you about this game and how horrible its creators are, but there's a topic that was left tucked away in the drawer, especially to make a separate video about it, and, well, to make a bit more money. You get me, right? If you thought the 644,000 vertices were the worst thing this game had to offer, you'd better hold on tight to the chairs you're sitting in, because today we're going to talk about what you love most. Nonsensical theories and a lore that makes even less sense. Yes, so I found myself tasked with playing all 6 Garden of Banban games again to try to understand something about the story. And since I ended up racking up more than 7 hours playing them in total, well, I couldn't ask for a refund. Things happen, what can you do? So please be so kind as to subscribe, like, and comment something like, I don't know, I like the bean. Honestly, no, don't write that. Don't actually write it, I'm begging you. Because the story of Garden of Banban is, how do I explain this without offending someone? I want you to think of the most generic story you can imagine. Something really basic, straight out of a textbook. Now, I want you to make it horror. Yes, exactly, throw in one scare after another. If you followed the steps correctly, you've probably ended up with something like any modern horror movie, the kind you watch on Netflix and forget the next day. Well, now you have to add an easy-to-sell mascot, something you can slap on a t-shirt that kids will buy like crazy. The result is an absolutely incomprehensible lore full of plot holes. And yes, I know, I'm the first one to complain about FNAF and the sometimes unnecessarily complex stuff it has. But what Scott Cawthon did well was drip-feed the story little by little to hook people, giving clues about what's happening, always leaving loose ends to start the next story arc from there. It's not the most consistent thing in the world, obviously, but for about 2 years now, we've been coming up with 5 Nights at Freddy's theories, and neither you nor I have gotten tired of it. So they're doing something right, you have to admit. But, of course, how are we going to talk about theories if you don't know the game's story? So get ready to hear a timeline like you've never heard on this channel before. I can't believe I'm doing this. The story of Garden of Banban in 1 minute. The clock's ticking. In Garden of Banban 1, we're a parent going to look for their missing child at the kindergarten. There we see everything's empty, abandoned, as if no one had set foot in the place for years. You're introduced to the gang: Jumbo Josh, Opila Bird, Banban, Captain Fiddles, and Stinger Flynn. You go through doors, press buttons, collect key cards, and at the end, Jumbo attacks you in an elevator. And that's it. How much time so far? Okay, on to the next one. In Garden of Banban 2, new characters are introduced like Sheriff Toaster, Nabnob, Bonbalina, and Slow Celine. In this episode, you reach a hidden citadel in the kindergarten's basement. Dude, literally, this is Resident Evil 2, but with garish colors and less budget. There, you find out they experimented with the human genome and a substance called Givanium. Banban knocks you out, takes your keycards, and something else that's going to be very important later, pay attention to that. And then you escape from various monsters. Oh, and you also run into Stinger Flynn, the first character in this game who's actually scary. In the end, Banban says he wants to help you, you escape more monsters, and you reach an elevator that, instead of going up, takes you down to an even deeper level. Well, so far it's not a big deal, let's keep going. In 3, Nobnalina shows up, who's like Nob but female. Don't expect them to put much effort into this game. I'm warning you now. You have to help her reunite with Nob under Stinger Flynn's orders, who shows you his past and tells you he has the kids because he needs their memories. So if you leave her alone, she lets you escape. But obviously you don't, because who would do that in a game like this? You escape the place, a jellyfish finds you, shows you the gang riding in a car. Yes, a car, don't ask. And while that's happening, it explains that the monsters themselves are at odds with each other. You're also told about a group known as They, and honestly, I don't even know who they are anymore. In the end, it's revealed that Banban can go into some kind of special mode or something. He enters that state after being caught by the jellyfish, and you have to escape riding a bird. Yes, that's how it happens. In the end, they're all in a ring like it's a WWE SmackDown, and you escape like it's nothing to an even deeper level. That's where Garden of Banban 4 starts. When you get there, they chase you, knock you out. This is becoming a routine, isn't it? And you wake up in a weird room where a toad interrogates you. Then they take you to the queen, who's a purple kangaroo. Yes, a purple kangaroo. I'm not making this up. And she tells you that you need to fix another elevator. Who the hell wrote these games? After that, the jellyfish grabs a memory from you, and out of nowhere, Choo-Choo Charles shows up. What's going on? Well, among other things, Banban reveals his past, goes into mode again, and kills Nob because he stole a stick figure doll. In the end, you get tricked by the Jester, who's this half-green, half-blue guy. He makes the queen laugh, but something happens while you're escaping, and that's when the last game so far starts. Okay, it seems the queen died, and now the sheriff is trying to escape the naughty one, who are apparently the queen's kids, released when she turned into a laser beam. For some reason that makes no sense whatsoever. You have to get the queen's scepter, which seems to be useful for something. That's when Sir Dado, a slug character, starts chasing us, but apparently all the other monsters have some kind of respect for him or something. That doesn't matter much because in the end, he attacks all the other monsters, leaving us with a few jump scares along the way. Oh, and there's a cat Rex. I swear this is real. Then, well, there's another vision of a bus running everyone over, and when you wake up, you have to go to Xenon's room, a character who's very important for our theories. After that, there's filler, more filler, and it all ends when the queen's scepter opens. Dado was recruiting monsters to finish what the queen couldn't, whatever that means. Meanwhile, Banban stays behind and seems to sacrifice himself so you can move forward, which I don't think matters much because they'll probably bring him back later. I mean, how can there be a Garden of Banban without Banban? The important thing is that the game ends there, and that's more or less a quick rundown of what's happened so far. But as I've told you since the start of this video, behind a terrible story, there are always terrible theories. Of course, let's start with the most obvious one that many of you might suspect. The monsters are missing children. But hold on a second. Why does there always have to be a monster inside a kid? How does that theory work? Why is that idea everywhere all the time? Luckily, this time, no. Fortunately, time completely destroyed that theory, which not only would have made Garden of Banban the most predictable game in history, but as the game progressed, that idea floating around all the internet forums slowly fell apart. And you see, this idea started because Banban inexplicably decides to help the protagonist in a suspiciously selfless way. And I say inexplicably because, especially in the last 2 chapters of the game, very important context was introduced about each of the characters in the place. Banban himself isn't actually called that. He used to be a worker named Hoodman who was betrayed. Banbalina turns out to be a teacher no one paid attention to. Stinger Flynn might also be another worker from the place. And Apila Bird was one of the main caretakers of the kindergarten. In fact, when notes start appearing that describe the cases in detail, they also start dropping hints about the monster's origins. Though some others, like Jumbo Josh or Nabnob and his female counterpart, still haven't been fully confirmed. The important thing is that as far as the game has progressed, it's been confirmed that the monsters are mostly people who were part of the dark underground facilities, or the kindergarten itself, and much of their personality is reflected in their monstrous versions. Like with Banbalina, who forces you to solve problems and pay attention to her, as if she's still teaching in an empty classroom. But there's another theory that's just as, if not more, controversial, and it's the idea that there's a monster in the shadows who's been fixing all the gigantic plot holes that have been forming little by little. It's the inconsistencies with the damage the characters take. Remember when I told you that between the first and second chapters, an entire elevator falls on Jumbo Josh? Look, I don't know what this guy's made of, but it's unlikely he survived a mechanical elevator crashing down on him. Yet there he is later, showing up like nothing happened, as if he'd just gone to grab a coffee and come back. And the same thing happens with the other characters, especially after the part where they all start fighting for script reasons. There we see several of them get crushed and seriously injured, but then they show up again, like it's nothing, chasing you once more. Well, according to this theory, Syringeon, a medical monster who's only appeared in drawings and never in person, is the one responsible for recovering the monster's bodies and helping them heal their wounds. The question, of course, that we're all asking ourselves amidst everything we're seeing in this video is, why is Syringeon still alive? Knowing there's a division between the monster factions, why didn't they kill him from the start? I mean, if Banban's side and Stinger Flynn's side are at odds, wouldn't you start by taking out the neutral character who can help the enemy? They're Play-Doh monsters. I don't think they care much about the Geneva Convention and harming a medic. Unless, of course, something's explained, like Syringeon being the only one who can supply them with something vital. Or, as happens in the 6th game, it's revealed he has kids, and for some reason the monsters take pity on him. I know, it doesn't make sense, but nothing in this game does, so it could be an option. And speaking of logic, let's talk about the visions. No, better yet, not the visions. Let's talk about the vision. You know what I mean? Because what's the point of Choo-Choo Charles showing up in the middle of a campfire with kindergarten monsters? I'll let you think about it for a few seconds. 1, 2? Okay, that's more than enough. No, it doesn't make sense. The justification some people started giving is that maybe Charles was created in the lab after the mysterious Givanium was distributed, accidentally or not, to a spider or a train or a spider on a train. But the result of that experiment was so powerful that it ended up escaping the facility and reaching the island where the events of the other game take place. But if I already explained why Charles's appearance completely breaks a game mechanic, now I'll explain why his appearance makes no sense at all. Starting with the fact that the companies making both games aren't just different, they have no connection whatsoever beyond maybe a 3-message conversation to put the train in this game without getting hit with 400 copyright lawsuits. And lastly, this doesn't make much sense with Choo-Choo Charles's lore either, because in that game, Charles's origin has to do with eggs in the island's caves, tied to an entity that's been living there for a long time, not one that escaped from a horrible kindergarten that turned out to be an underground scientific lab expanded downward for no reason. So the only question left is, why the hell did Stinger Flynn know Choo-Choo Charles? And why did they fight him in the vision? Does that universe have the game, and a kid played it and had their memories absorbed? It's the only explanation that kind of makes sense, though all of this is closer to being a simple fan service cameo than anything else. And speaking of nonsense, we have to talk about the moment that's caused the most speculation in the entire saga. Halfway through the second chapter, Banban knocks you out and takes something you wouldn't give him otherwise while conscious. And though we can literally see he took the keycards, something we wouldn't give up in a million years because it delays all the progress made toward finding the kids. Many started speculating about what else Banban could have taken from the protagonist. According to the internet, it was the pancreas. Seriously, stop for a second and listen to me. Just a sec. I didn't say this. A theory started circulating online that Banban actually extracted the protagonist's pancreas because since the first game, his catchphrase was, "Sharing is caring, your pancreas is mine." Why? Why did the developers in a super lucid moment have to include that line? There's no sense here whatsoever. Yes and no, it doesn't make any logical sense to talk about sharing a pancreas. It's not some metaphor in any culture or something you can abstract, unless it's a diabetes joke, which still doesn't fit at all since this is just a kindergarten. That's how we find out in the third game that Banban has an obsession with eating that kind of organ. But even so, most of this remains a giant unresolved mystery. So let's simplify it and stick with the literal. Banban only took the keycards, okay? Besides, I don't think he'd take our pancreas and leave us alive. He'd have just let us die if all he wanted was that specific organ. Between one thing and another, these are the theories I tried to piece together with maybe too much effort in a lore that's increasingly upside down. But I can't deny it's not fun. What do you want me to say? What does make me think? After reading all this and spending a third of what a AAA game costs on 6 titles and realizing I was right when I said this saga was a disaster, is that I don't think I'll ever complain about FNAF again. That's a done deal. But if you've played Garden of Banban, give me a hand and write something about what's really going on. Let me know your theories, and maybe in the future we'll talk about it in another video when they release Garden of Banban 49, which, at this rate, could be in 2 years.